Casey Keeler, Temple University football coach. He joins us now on 365 Sports, a good friend of the show from his time at Sam Houston State and elsewhere. So I don't know if you've been listening in on us. You're my age, so you can't be grumpy. Well,
I was a little grumpy this afternoon, but that's besides the point.
Not a good practice, huh?
Well, no, we're maturing right now. We're trying to figure it out. It's we're at that hills and valleys sort of stage right now. Hopefully we're going to start leveling off a little bit, but I see some good, I see some bad, and I am honest with them. That's for sure.
No question. And that's why you've had incredible success, how you build it to where you want it, where you have been. What are your thoughts about injury reports? And Kyle Whittingham said, okay, you're going to do that. I don't know if we'll have a depth chart we'll release.
Yeah. It's one of those things. If you have like two distinct quarterbacks, like one is just the triple threat, and you're going to run a whole lot of that belly read and zone read stuff. And you're getting them on the flank versus if you have a straight drop back. Sure, I understand that. After that, really, I don't know how much it really matters. I don't get caught up. I know a lot of coaches don't give them a depth chart. I don't know. Again, the quarterback is that one position that, or sometimes if you have that great wideout, who you have to double cover, one of those things. I remember we had a, great one and one of those things where he wasn't going to play, and all of a sudden they changed their coverage dramatically. It took them a quarter or so to do that, to kind of figure out that he's not out there and how we're going to, because they were going to double cover him all day long. And so, yeah, I get it. It's we're all trying to win. We're all trying to win,
Yeah, it's Coach, it's one of those things that, you can at least give me something basic that I can look at online so I can find it. That's all I want. I don't want shit like, those are the things that kind of get me nuts. Yeah. Just as someone who does what we do, because I like to know. I'm not I don't like to fly by the seat of my pants when I'm watching games.
Well, yeah, I worked for ESPN for a year, commentating, and that was one of the things I was like this. I'm just trying to tell the story. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sharing this information with anybody else. Just the more you can give me, the more research I can do, the better I can tell, great stories about your players, the better this whole telecast is going to be. And that's why they're paying me. And so I would get frustrated because I would definitely run into some stonewalling. And, that was frustrating because of we're not releasing that until it's live from the stadium. Like we're talking about the players and those kind of things. But I would get a lot of that. I was frustrated because it's I'm a former coach. You would think you would get a little grace with the, a guy who's done their job, been on the sideline, doing what they've done, but more than not would definitely not want to give you anything to work with.
So, Coach, you had a pretty big transition. The last few times we had talked to you, of course, you were at Sam Houston. I think the last time we talked to you had taken the Temple job, but it's been a little while. So just how's Philadelphia? How's the program developing? Yeah. And I know you got UMass coming up here in a little over a week. Just how's everything going?
Yeah, kids have been great. I talk a lot about, the first 4.5 days I was here, I met with every player individually. And I found a group of kids who really loved going to school here. And a lot of guys made a pact not to leave. They wanted to get this thing fixed. And I thought we did a great job in winter workouts and spring practice and summer conditioning. Now we're getting ready for a football game. And, as I constantly remind them, we're in a race against time. I think, it's them understanding the little details, they're all going to add up. And when we play, that game on Saturday, that we don't get it back. That opener in Massachusetts, you can't have a do-over. And so I'm pretty hard on them. And they are starting to understand that there's a really high level there's a high expectation level here. And we've done a great job. Right now, recruiting classes are recruiting classes. These are just kids that are committed. They haven't signed yet, but we're 75th in the country. We're second in the American, and we're third of all the G6 schools in the country, behind UNLV and South Florida. So in terms of recruiting class, so we have a great product. Temple's a great academic institution. Philly's an awesome city. I met my wife here. I was with the Philadelphia Eagles, and she was with she just graduated from Penn, and so this is coming home. And I know we've brought a bunch of recruits on campus in June, and they have just fallen in love with this place and fallen in love with our players, and that's why we've had such a great class. So there's been greatness here. What people don't realize is, Temple has 198 players that have played in the NFL. That's 81 draft choices, 4 first-round picks. There's some guy named Dawkins who's playing tackle for the Buffalo Bills, who people think he's one of the best tackles, not the best tackle in all pro football right now. We had a Heisman Trophy runner-up. 10 years ago, Temple beats Penn State at the Link in front of 70K. And then later in the season, nationally ranked Notre Dame and nationally ranked Temple play a tight one in front of game day. So, I'm leaning into a lot of the great history and tradition. Now, the recent years, they've struggled, but there's definitely been greatness here in the past. And one of the things doing my research, it's getting back to that footprint of recruiting. Like when I got to Texas, it was pretty simple. You recruit Texas, Texas, and Texas. Here, there's definitely a Connecticut down to Virginia out to Ohio, area, probably about the size of Texas. And that's where you put your resources. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've, started off with such a bang in terms of recruiting, because we have a great product to sell. And also it's a great region when it comes to high school football.
Some people may think that you're in Temple up in Philly, and that's the exception. But that, like you said, that's where you're from. That's where you met your wife. You've coached it in Amherst, at Rowan, at Delaware, and now Temple. So that area. Was that the lure to get back closer to your roots, or is this just the opportunity that came at the right time?
Combination of both. I mean, I have 3 grandchildren that live in Wilmington, Delaware. And so I think, coming back to them was a big deal. We joke like it's great FaceTiming, but those FaceTimes only can last so long. You want to get in to hug them and be around them. And I am my grandpa name is Snoopy. Figure that out. My wife is Mies and I'm Snoops. And my daughter had these nicknames for us because she thought I was a big cheese. So I was Snoop Dogg. So she, as a little kid, would call me Snoopy. And so like when I see the grandkids, it's, hey, there's Snoopy. So it's a lot of fun being back. I played against Temple back in the day. I got recruited by Temple. My first visit was Penn State. And I remember Coach Paterno's met me and he said, son, those are really nice shoes. I had 2-inch heels on, trying to be the 6'2" linebacker they were looking for, not the 6-foot linebacker they're probably going to pass on. And then I came down to see Wayne Harden. And I thought it was all set. I was going to be going to Temple. And they filled up. I kind of got the indication when Wayne was talking to me about golf during my one-on-one meeting, and I didn't know anything about golf. And then as I walked out, the guy recruited me, said, we had filled up and don't have a spot for you. And so I ended up at University of Delaware. And in 78 and 1979, we played pretty good Temple teams, and they beat the tar out of us. At 2019 won the national championship. We were 13-1, and our loss was to Temple. So I kind of see Temple through a little different lens. I see it through the lens that when I was playing, how good they were, but I also see it through that lens where they had some really great times under Matt Rhule and Al Golden. And again, my job is to get this place back to, the greatness it once had. And I feel very encouraged knowing that, being here 5.5, 6 months, we had, some great recruiting class, come through, and we haven't even been here a full year yet. So I feel pretty good that there's a challenge in front of us. There's no question, but I feel pretty good that we can get this thing going.
Yeah, and I don't mean to put you on the spot with this, but you mentioned like being closer to family, closer to grandkids. You mentioned Al Golden and Matt Rhule. Those guys were younger than you are right now at different points of their coaching career. That's one of the things that Temple can show. They have these little like lightning bolts of success, and then the coach leaves, and they kind of have to start over again, especially those 2 guys left before there's transfer portal, and you can kind of, shorten the rebuild process. For you in Temple, you're not looking at this as this is a head coaching opportunity because it was open. I need to prove something. You've already done that in your career, and you're here to build something in a place that means something to you.
Yeah. And being away for 11 years, my boss named Janice Taylor Keeler, who I've been married to for 40 years, I don't think she's looking for a next move. In fact, we're building a house right now. I'm going to move into it September 12th. And so and it's been hard because I've been living in Philly and she's been living down Rehoboth Beach. And so we see each other, like every other weekend. Sometimes we get lucky to see each other. And then that's been hard, but it's been worth it because, again, we get a chance to have the grandkids and those kind of things around, and a lot of friends and family. So, again, I'm excited about the opportunity, and I do believe, we have a chance to get Temple back to its greatness. I also think, at my age, I think you needed someone who had, experience. This is a job where there's a lot of moving parts, and especially now with the transfer portal, and the American has a unique thing where we have a floor where you have to invest a certain amount of money, which I think is genius. It made all the teams in the American step up and made Temple step up. And so I was really, I think well equipped for this job. And I brought a brilliant general manager, Clayton Barnes, who's an A&M grad, who was with me at Sam Houston, who put our roster together. He came in and put a recruiting department together. That's the thing people don't realize is Temple has, we have a beautiful practice facility we're in right now, just football. A field and a half outside, gorgeous weight room, all the meeting space we could want. We have a whole department, recruiting department. There's a lot of they want to win. They want to win. And again, I think the key thing I need to do is get back to the root of recruiting this region. And will we take a Florida kid? Absolutely. Maybe a Texas kid or a Georgia kid. But we're going to put our resources here in this footprint, and I think that will pay the dividends.
You mentioned Al Golden. You mentioned Matt Rhule. Obviously, Bruce Arians has a history there. Pop Warner, for God's sakes, is there. How much does that help? And did you pick the brain of Golden or Matt at all?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you a quick Matt Rhule story just to tell you what kind of person he is. So we're playing Richmond opening day, 2016, 17, somewhere. That might be 17. And the hurricane comes in, and so they're using Sam Houston as a staging area for the floods in Houston. So they have to move our game to Baylor, and so we go out there to practice. And the first person who met me at the 50-yard line was Matt Rhule, and Matt had filmers for me. He had meeting space for me. It was like, that's who he is. And the thing he hates about this story is that we won more games in Baylor Stadium than they did that
year. We remember.
Yeah. But Matt's not going to panic. Matt's going to stick to the plan, and he got that thing rolling. But yeah, definitely talking to Matt and talking to Al, and I have a great relationship with Bruce Arians too. All those guys kind of gave me, the same info. It's like Temple Tough is a real thing. You're not going to throw the ball. You're not going to bring five wide receivers in and throw the ball with fourth and half a yard to go. That's just not who we can be. I mean, it's a Temple Tough mentality. So that's a real thing. And they all agreed that we got to get back to recruiting the region, because even though they stole some players out of Florida and Georgia, or they're, in that 2015 team I talked about who beat Penn State, I think of the 124 players in the program, like 105 were from that footprint I'm talking about. So, yeah, they got some players from outside the region, but boy, there's some great high school football here. And, we've shown very quickly that we're able to get some of those guys interested in Temple.
One of the things I've noticed here in the Big 12, but other places with the advent of NIL and the transfer portal, being in a major metropolitan area used to not really be, and it still maybe is not the exact draw of, where you're going to go, because most college towns are the same. But you're in Philly, and that's got to be an inherent advantage just because of now you have a transfer portal. If you've got kids that, want to be closer to Philly, want to be there, has it been a draw of hey, there's a lot of great high school football around here. Sometimes kids go off somewhere else. They want to be back closer to home. Well, you're the school in Philly. It's you. There's not everybody else.
So I think we brought 32 players on campus in June. Mm-hmm. I think there was 5 flights, maybe 6 flights. That tells you a lot about our recruiting territory. Yeah. And the other thing is, once you get those high school kids here, there can't be an excuse that I'm going to get closer to home. They're already closer to home in terms of the reasons you get for going to the transfer portal. And so having them get used to mom and dad or uncles or aunts or whatever coming to watch them play, I think it's a huge advantage. So I think that's why, I'm all about culture. And I think the way you develop a program is, you have a culture where You recruit your locker room first. Those are the first guys we're recruiting. We're trying to keep our best players here. Then it's the high school kids, because quite honestly, there's better high school players than ever before for a place like Temple, because so many people are living in the portal. We're not living in the portal. We're in the portal, but not living there. We're not making our bread and butter there. This is like our third part of recruiting. And then the third part of recruiting is the portal. And those guys are guys that, like, there's a need. Like we have a need for a tackle, or we have a need for a quarterback, or we have a need for a couple running backs, or whatever it may be. We're not just stocking our locker room full of guys who, might be 1 year guys, or, didn't fit somewhere else. Now we're trying to keep our locker room, trying to build with high school players, and then add the portal kids. We'll probably sign 30 high school players this year. So you can tell how committed I am to the long-term health of Temple football, because this is not signing 30 transfers. This is signing 30 high school guys, because, again, I want to build this from the ground up.
If you don't mind, one more question for me. Aren't you the program that when you were moving up to the FBS, that you basically redshirted most of your team?
Yep.
Sacrificed a year so younger guys could play, but also the other guys would be around. So, I mean, as far as managing a roster, COVID, you won the national title the year after COVID. So, I mean, you've done this many different ways, haven't you?
Well, and it's either you adapt or you perish. And I remember getting a phone call from, an All-American offensive lineman, and he goes, "Coach," he goes, "boy, we're just won a national championship. We're transitioning into FBS. There's a 9-game schedule. Like, I don't know. Like, I think I'm going to put myself in the portal." I said, "Well, hold on a second." I said, "I have a plan." I said, "We're going to play you 4 games. One of those games is going to be against Texas A&M. One of those games is going to be against SFA, down at NRG Stadium. And then 2 games early. Then we're going to put you in the weight room. We're going to get you in shape. We're going to be ready to go and we're going to use your red shirt." And so that's what we did. We basically got all of our best players. We said, "Listen, like, who wants to play a 9-game schedule? I don't want to, but we have to, because just the way things are working out. But we can redshirt you." So we redshirted a ton of guys, and we'll be able to keep that locker room together. And then I had guys like Ramon Jefferson, who was a great running back on our national championship team. He goes, "Coach, I don't have a redshirt year." And so I helped him get to Kentucky, because he had gotten his degree. He won a national championship. He's first-team All-American. And I got it. Like, playing a 9-game schedule for nothing didn't make a whole lot of sense. So I don't think, like, the NCAA, when they put these rules in, the portal was not involved. And so to be able to have your kids just be able to pick up and leave, and rightfully so, because you have a 9-game schedule, it was hard. But we found redshirting our best players was so critical. And the fact that our kids wanted to stay at Sam Houston. They loved the place. And so we found a way to make it work. But that's what coaching is. It's problem solving. So I quickly saw a problem that we were going to have with this 9-game schedule, and all the players who were saying, like, "Why are we doing this?" And I found a good solution. I mean, playing in A&M, how does it get better than that? I mean, really. And then, SFA, that rivalry game was such a, great experience. So I think we had some carrots out there to kind of, get them moving along, and we were able to keep, like, all the guys that had redshirt years, they all stayed.
Yeah. Campbell's can in the background. What is that? That is on your shelf.
Well, Campbell's soup is right over the fridge.
There you go.
Yeah. And so they'll send something out about, like, hey, good luck, try to get in the bowl, like, that kind of thing. So that's good. From I think one of their bowl appearances. But Camden, New Jersey's right across the river, and Campbell Soup is right there.
Yeah, they've had some players come out of Camden, New Jersey.
Oh, yeah.
Irving Fryer, Mike Rozier. That's a long time ago. But
Smokey, you ever been to Philly?
Yeah.
Philly's great. Look, I
watched an Army-Navy game there.
Even as a dyed-in-the-wool Cowboys fan, Coach, I love going to, like, I've been to Philly a bunch of times. It's a great city. It's fantastic.
It's an incredible sports city.
I don't admit that when I'm in Philly. I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
But
Well, hey, quick story. So I'm living in Philly, and my general manager's living with me. And, the cherry and the white looks a little bit like the Commanders' uniforms. Oh. And so they beat the Commanders, and they're moving on into the playoffs even deeper. And Clayton Barnes, my general manager, is out with his cherry and white on. And he's seen a lot of dirty looks. And he's realizing people think he's walking town with his Commander stuff on. So he quickly bought a Philadelphia Eagles hat. and sported that, because there's a lot of pride here now.
No.
I was one of those 1.5 million people that went out, in the cold and watched the parade. And it was very cool because I had Tristan McCullum, my safety from Sam Houston, was on that Super Bowl team. So it was very cool. And I just was at practice a couple of days ago. And, Ife Adeyi, our wide receiver, is on the Eagles roster right now too. So, it's great. We play at the Link, and we have a great relationship with the Philadelphia Eagles. And so Nick Sirianni actually called me 2 days before the Super Bowl, hey, great to have you back in Philly.
That's awesome.
He played against me. He was a player. I was a coach at Rowan University. He was at Mount Union. I believe his only loss in his entire career was when we broke the longest win streak in the history of college football, beating Mount Union at Mount Union. That was his team. So he and I just were catching up about, my Rowan days, when I was a Division III coach. But Philly's a very welcoming place. It really is.
Hey, great to see you, first of all. And congratulations. We believe in you because we've seen what you've done here close by at Sam Houston State and elsewhere. Thank you, Casey. Good luck. We'll try to get back with you again as the season gets moving. Good luck this week.
Absolutely. Great seeing you guys, as always.
Casey Keeler, head coach at Temple. Man, how about the Matt Rhule story here and the hurricane, and then the background where he's been at Rowan, at Delaware, Amherst, and much more, and broke that Mount Union winning streak that, golly, I can't remember. It was seemed like 100 games in a row.